welcome back, welcome back. All right, so we do have our Acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Junior Benjamin, and of course we are here to speak building collaborations, of course. The Division of Health and is in conjunction with the TTPS in this initiative. Good morning and welcome, Acting Inspector. Commissioner, sorry. Good morning.
That's all right. That's all right. It's indeed a privilege to be here. And again, pleasant morning to all your listening audience.
All right, indeed a pleasure. Okay, so we're going to just ask you to raise your volume or whatever. And so we
That's it.
All right, so let's speak about...
low as well, but I'll try.
Very good. All right, guys, you got to go a little more. All right, the whole question of this collaboration, just speak about the genesis, and let's get into the meat of the matter in terms of the vision for this initiative.
Well, this initiative originated with the Tobago Division, and it was spearheaded by, again, the Senior Superintendent, as well as the ACP, and more so the Inspector CID, who, along with the other members of the CRO, which is the Criminal Records Office, who really worked with the Tobago Regional Health Authority to come up with this initiative. It is a breakthrough initiative, and it is one where I don't think that we really had something like this before. But I thought that the idea was so dynamic that when I was in Tobago, I needed to pass and at least show my support. But the idea behind it is that we recognize that the first responders are so very important to our crime scene. So therefore, the more we can educate them and work with them, we believe it will help us to preserve the crime scene and also to preserve the evidence that can lead to convictions in the future.
All right. So when an incident happens, the police is supposed to be given, right, let's say it's an accident, there's an incident of some shooting of some sort. Before the ambulance can arrive, I just want us to walk through what the process is, in that the public will be aware in the event that there is somebody who might rush to a relative and may move the person and may interfere with the inspection or the investigation in terms of where the person was when the bullet hit the body and so on. Just speak to us as who is supposed to respond first when there is a shooting, per se, and then the ambulance reaches and may be in a hurry to save a life. How does that work in that regard? Do they wait on the police to arrive? In the event, in some cases, the person may just that time span between 5 or 6 minutes may be the time when the medical personnel can save the life by either doing CPR or whatever. Just speak to how do you control an incident of that nature as to who's supposed to be in terms of the investigative process and not to have the medical personnel interfere or maybe move the body when they're not supposed to. Do you understand the point I'm making?
Yes, certainly. And this is the reason why we had the workshop. One of the things is that we believe that in most cases, we had situations where the EMT would probably reach first. In addition, there are times when the police reach first. When the police reach first, we know how to preserve the crime scene. All right. However, there might be times when the EMT might reach first. What we wanted to do was to ensure that they understand what the crime scene is all about, and in the event that they are there first, they can understand some of the important evidence so that they do not trample on those evidence or even contaminate the scene. So the purpose of the workshop was that when they come, they will understand what to do, where probably there might be blood and so on. You want to make the best pathway to get to the victim so that you can save life. That is the number one thing. You want to save life and you want to preserve your life as the first respondent. And then after you save the life or do what you have to do, you need to make sure as much as possible that you do not contaminate the scene by walking, all over the scene. You create a path and you will know if the police come after, you will tell them about that part so that everybody follows that scene. You want to ensure that you don't have family and friends crying and bawling down the place and walking all over the scene. You want to help preserve that scene so that as much evidence as possible could be preserved. And very interestingly, even after all of this, let's say a person gets shot, what we recognize is that the crime scene tend to move from that location to, again, the hospital and sometimes into the surgery room, because when you take out and you extract that bullet from that individual, we will need that bullet to at least examine forensically to see whether or not it was linked to another firearm that was used in another shooting, etc. So you need to teach those persons how to handle the exhibit so that even in the case of that exhibit reaching to the court, the chain of custody and all the other things that are needed would be in accordance with the protocols that we observe within the police service.
Are the protocols new to these stakeholders, or is this workshop something that just reinforces what they would have already been doing, what they would have already been doing over the years in terms of proper procedures, especially to deal with some of the examples that you gave there on a crime scene?
Well, for the stakeholders, it might be new because they know about saving lives. In terms of the forensic evidence and so forth, they might not probably know all the intricacies and why we do what we do. So therefore, it is an eye-opener for them, and not only for them, but also for us. It's a symbiotic relationship, and as we continue to strengthen that stakeholder partnership, what is going to happen is that we learn more about their work, and they learn more about our work, and together we seek to help each other in ensuring that we are effective in doing our jobs.
Okay, and in terms of can we say that it was directly targeted to frontline workers predominantly? And what was the reception like coming out of the workshop?
Well, I would say it's not just frontline, but more so it was primarily dealt with both frontline as well as those that are primarily within the medical field. So you had the EMTs, you had the DMOs, and those from the accident and emergency department working with the what we call it CRO, which is the Criminal Records Office, and the CID as well. So it was a collaboration, and therefore we really appreciate that kind of stakeholder partnership engagement. And that is part and parcel of our strategic plan 2025 to 2027, where we want to strengthen community partnership through strengthening our stakeholder engagement.
Okay, and I just one more before I toss you back to Brother B there. In terms of the community-centric type of policing, I know you say it's part of the collaborative efforts that the TTPS wants to engage in, but are we seeing results in terms of, and I know this workshop catered to a particular group of stakeholders, but generally looking at community-centric policing, does it also has to do with intelligence?
Well, I wouldn't say intelligence, because intelligence you gather that from witnesses and so forth. But what we want to do, it helps us in turning the evidence that we have into probably preserving those evidence so that it can reach the threshold for a conviction. Because when the scene is contaminated, we therefore lose the evidence to bring a person to court, and in some cases, even if we get to court, to gain a conviction is really a challenge when the scene is contaminated. So the more we are able to train persons to understand and appreciate the crime scene and what they can do in assisting the police in preserving the crime scene, it would aid in us, not just in crime prevention, crime detection, but also especially in crime conviction, which is a major ingredient in the success of the police.
Very good. All right. So I want to get to where we are with our level of policing as opposed to what is done internationally. And I could bring that example because I've lived in it, so I know. When a call comes in of a shooting in any particular area, there's a simultaneous call or with police, ambulance, and the fire service. We don't need the fire service in this case in Tobago and Trinidad. However, both ambulance, because these paramedics respond, they hear the call. So somebody calls and everybody. Are we there with our communication network in that regard so that the ambulance or the health professionals do not reach on the scene where they start to do their side of it by assisting bringing back the person alive and may have tampered or contaminate the scene according to you? Is there any approach in this workshop that the system of communication is part of how both police and ambulance get to the scene at the same time and thereby maybe ordering who's approaching the body? Let's say the person is dead and so on. Who approaches the victim first? If that is not the case, is there any plans on working with that? Because that's a tool in itself by dealing with solving crimes and ensuring that the scenes are not contaminated by who is supposed to be first.
Well, certainly. And let me just say that in dealing with those situations, what we need is building a relationship with our stakeholders. And it is in workshops like these that we're able to, again, build that level of relationship and share in terms of the information that is needed, telephone numbers that is needed, so that there can be a greater interaction and dependency on each other, so that there's an interdependency that is developed, and not just the police doing things by themselves or the EMT doing things by themselves. It has to be, as I said before, a symbiotic relationship where each work with each other. What we recognize coming out of this greater dialogue, greater openness, and also greater relationship. So I believe that we are on the road to preserve a long-lasting relationship that would lead to what you just talked about here, Brother, where when we visit a scene, it is because the police, the EMT, everybody will be coming eventually at the same time. But we are not fully there, but we are hoping to get there as we continue to build these stakeholder relationships.
You spoke about forensic investigation. Now, that's science. Where are we in Trinidad and Tobago with that level of investigation? Not just the fingerprinting, but let's say the ballistics. Let's say a bullet was fired and the cartridge carries a certain chemical that may be residual and maybe on the body or on some clothing. Are we there in terms of being able to utilize the forensic type investigation at the level of ensuring that a case would be solved based on the forensic report? Are we there yet, and are we getting there? And this is that part of this whole initiative, and shouldn't it be if it's not?
Well, certainly in terms of the forensic initiatives and where we are, I can tell you that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we continue to increase the level of awareness and competencies of our officers. We have at least 15 to 20 officers, I think, that are trained in the whole idea of ballistics, and they are persons helping in the Forensic Science Center right now in terms of firearms and ballistics when they are shooting. We also have in the CU department police officers swabbing firearms for DNA, as well as we have persons there doing ballistics, and that is called a one-stop shop, so that when a firearm is brought into the CU, they are able to check for all these things at the same time. So we are working very hard to have that level of competence, and certainly we are heading in the right direction. We want to continue. Right now we are looking at the whole idea of the DNA, and really filling that DNA bank so that we can also use that as an additional form of forensic that can help us to solve crimes in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, and I just want to look at the chain of custody in terms of when you gather the evidence, whether it be through interviews, whether it be through the analysis and so on, and then presenting it to the court in certain cases. What exactly transpires there in terms of the storage of the evidence, and even when you have to consider transferring certain documentation or certain data, what exactly is transpiring there? Acting Commissioner of Police. Persons, again, this question is kind of stimulating from the fact that persons want to be able to have that trust. Of course, we appreciate this collaborative effort. We appreciate the workshop that took place recently and all of the other collaborative efforts. But in terms of, I guess, ensuring that all protocols are observed in an efficient manner, that is exactly what I want to hear from you, Acting Commissioner.
Again, that's a very good question. Let me just say, in terms of chain of custody really talks about the evidence in particular, and the fact that you want to get that evidence from the crime scene to the forensic so that proper analysis can be done. And again, having the proper documentation. We recognize that this has been a challenge in times past because of the length of time the evidence takes to get to the forensic and the proper notation and documentation to show exactly what transpired between that time, and that the process itself was one that did not contaminate the evidence, and therefore the chain of custody is important. So when, let's just say, a bullet is collected, all right, from a crime scene, how it is packaged. When it is packaged, again, we need to ensure that it is properly labeled. And after it is labeled, we want to make sure that that process to the crime scene is done as quick as possible so as to avoid any contamination or even the loss of that particular evidence. When it is there, and it is analyzed. When it comes back, it also goes through a process and then it is stored. All these things should be properly documented by the police officer so that in presentation to the court must be able to see that seamless process so that they can know that the process and the procedure was in order with our protocols as established in our standing orders.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of utilizing digital or utilizing the technology, I understand that there are certain digital forensic, computerized systems that can be used, and of course it's used internationally. Are we at that place yet in Trinidad and Tobago? And also, as you answer that question, in terms of what happens in the Tobago context, seeing that the Forensic Science Center is in Trinidad and St. James, I believe, how does that efficiency work?
Right. So, again, another interesting question. I will tell you that in terms of the equipment, I can't really speak to all the equipment that is being used in the Forensic Science Center. I can tell you that in terms of the CIRU, which is the area or the department that we carry all our firearms to ensure that they are checked for DNA, fingerprints, as well as the ballistics. We have the necessary equipment there, and we continue to try to have better equipment so that we can move faster in this regard. But nevertheless, our one-stop shop is there as a means to assist us in ensuring that we can move faster with forensic evidence. In terms of Tobago, again, as quick as possible, we encourage them to bring across their evidence so that it can go to CIRU or, in some cases, straight to the Forensic Science Center. But so far, we do not have any lab in Tobago, but we're hoping as time goes on, we would be able to do something like that so that we can move even faster with evidence as we release to Tobago.
All right, so we mentioned the technology there. AI is very much a part of how we exist in this world today. before we go further into, well, and I could bring that as to the other collaborations that would be had from an IT standpoint. Of course, the TRHA and, of course, the health sector is working in conjunction with the TTPS to ensure that investigations are not hampered. So we understand that. But what other collaboration? I did mention AI. Bring that into perspective as to how that can assist the police going forward. Dr. Ben, all right, let's... yeah, go ahead. We didn't hear that first part.
I said AI is a very important initiative. And that is something that we are working on right now to see how we can bring the TTPS into that, what we call 21st century technology. We want to be an organization that is technology driven as it relates to crime, and therefore AI will play a very important role. As we speak, I am engaging certain professionals, professors as well, that deals with AI and crime scene. And we want to see how we can even help us in the whole idea of homicides. So it is on the burner. That is something that even as we speak, I'm engaging some international persons or an individual in particular that does that to speak to us, especially in the TTPS. So it is on the burner, and we are going to pursue it because we recognize in order to deal with the crime situation today, we need to have that 21st century technology-driven solution to crime.
All right. One of the key components of collaboration with the police is the people. Obviously, you're there to rebuild the confidence in the population and in the police, in the TTPS particularly, as to give the confidence to the population. There's an initiative that football in the communities by the police. I can't remember the term that it was called. But however, what are some of the other initiatives in terms of people-related or people accommodating, thereby having rebuild the trust in the population with the TTPS? The football initiative is one. What else is there in terms of collaboration so as to rebuild the trust and the confidence in the police service?
Again, beautiful question. And let me tell you, there's several different initiatives. Because at the end of the day, I think that the issue is not about reduction in crime, even though we are seeing a 31% reduction in the crime. What we're seeing, what people are interested in is the fear of crime. And therefore, the relationship and those initiatives are important to build that level of trust. Some of those initiatives will start with our walkabouts. It starts with our town meetings. It starts with us building a greater relationship with our youths, and therefore youth clubs become important, where we find and train our young children to be productive citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. We have the station council and all the different initiatives that are geared towards that. We have other areas such as sports, you understand, basketball, as you said, football. These are things that we are looking at to see how we can, again, attract the young people. But above all, again, when we talk about transparency and integrity, body-worn cameras become important. And therefore, we are working on getting that body-worn cameras and all the other things that will help in building that trust. But above all, nothing beats the way that we treat people. People do not care how much you know unless they know how much you care. And therefore, we must be a caring police service that considers and understands the needs of our citizens and treat them accordingly.
Very good. And as you on that, obviously we can't ignore the two recent police shootings in Tobago, particularly that one at Mount St. George. Police brutality has always been a challenge with community, well, police and the ordinary folk. The abuse or the excessive force in that regard, in particular the Mount St. George scenario. Justice is what people call for when they would have lost a relative by the hands of the police. How swift do you think? And I don't ask you how swift, but justice is what they cry for. I want justice for my dead brother. I want justice, and that is the cry you would hear when the reporter goes put the mic in front of the grieving relative. Let's speak to how swiftly can people expect justice when an officer has breached his or has done wrong or gone rogue in some cases. overuse if it's power or excessive force, police brutality, and dealing with that, putting that in that scenario, how brutal is the police service against any officer who is found wanting as far as excessive force and so on?
But let me state categorically that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we have a zero tolerance in terms of police indiscipline and, again, in any form of police brutality. All right? We are not going to stand by and allow that. Not under my watch. We are going to deal with those things decisively. I think, however, the perspective must be, across the board. We are living in a society when the criminals do crime, we don't see. However, when police do crime, everybody sees. We need to put it in perspective as well, that the same way we want justice when the police, it is believed, does wrong, we need to also have that when the criminals do something wrong. That being said, my officers must be aware of what is required of them and act in accordance with the use of force policy. And therefore, once they act in the use of force policy, in accordance with the use of force policy, I will be supporting my officers. We are taking a zero tolerance to any form of criminality and criminals taking charge of Trinidad and Tobago. That being said, we will investigate all police shootings, and it will be done thoroughly. It will be done with a level of transparency, integrity, and accountability. And where police officers fall short and foul of the law, they will be treated like any other person and will be dealt with in accordance with the law. I want to assure Trinidad and Tobago, and more so Tobago, that there will be absolutely no cover-up in any police shooting. But we will stand firm that if anyone engages police and the lives of our police officers are in danger, we will not back down. And be absolutely certain of that. We will not back down, because we will not allow Trinidad and Tobago to be a country that is ruled by criminals. The police, we are the police, and we will be the police as we seek to preserve law and order in Trinidad and Tobago.
Acting Commissioner, it's the first time you would have been, well, I think that you have spoken on the Monks and George shooting. Obviously, they are grieving families, and I would give you an opportunity to maybe send your condolences and to express your sympathy at this time, given you being the head of the TTPS. You're free to do so.
Yes. Let me just say to the families who have lost the lives of their loved one, as a police officer, the commissioner of police, as a pastor, as a person who has lost loved ones, I want to say to you that condolences goes out, and I want you to understand the police service is not about taking lives. We are about saving lives. And therefore, the pain that you're feeling now, I don't think words could express the loss that you're going through. Always know that the TTPS, we are here to save lives, and we want to ensure, and we want to assure you that there is going to be a thorough investigation in this matter, and we will ensure at the end of the day there's a level of transparency. As you continue to go through this tough time, I want you to know that tough times don't last, tough people do, and all the best, even as you continue to deal with this unfortunate situation. We will get to the bottom of it.
Okay, and before you leave us this morning, in terms of we can say that we are seeing less serious crimes on the island. Of course, you would have the exact data. But where are we in terms of moving forward? We know we had the state of emergency at one point, but in terms of moving forward, with regards to serious crimes in particular, what is the data telling you and your team?
Right, and I wanted to share with you the latest numbers that we have in terms of our statistics. Up to yesterday, we had, in fact, up to the 2nd of June, we had 162 murders against 238 in 2024. and 243 in 2023. It's quite interesting that for the month of June, we have 2 murders against 7 murders last year around the same time. So as you can see quite clearly that the strategies of the police is working. When we recognize in the Tobago space as well, we have seen at least a 70% reduction in murders, and we want to continue to see that level of disparity between last year and this year in terms of our murders. So I want to commend the officers in the Tobago division, ACP Sobero, Senior Soup Eli, and the team, the Tobago division team of the TTPS. They're doing a tremendous job. We want them to continue. And as we continue to serve the nation, let us do it with pride. Understand that when we work together, teamwork make the dream work.
Okay, excellent. All right, Acting in Commissioner of Police, we want to thank you very much for being with us. All the best to you, and of course, looking forward to see you run the long distance run. Maybe I will challenge you. Yeah, we'll settle that, eh?
That's certainly.
All right, thank you again. All the best to you, sir. All right.
Okay, all the best.
Yes, nice indeed.